Is it time to trust Graham Ashcraft in Week 21? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Friday, August 11th. I am Frank Sanford, joined by Scott White, and let's get into our Week 21 preview. We'll start with the schedule. 6 teams with 7 games next week. The D-backs, Mets, Cardinals, Royals, Padres, and Mariners. 18 teams with 6 games and 6 teams with 5 games. Guardians, White Sox, Cubs, Phillies, Blue Jays, and the Twins. Starters sit these fringe 2-start pitchers, beginning with Bobby Miller. He's facing the Brewers and the Marlins, but he has struggled over the past couple months. Scott, what do you think?
I will preface this whole thing by pointing out it is a light schedule this week. Very few teams with 7 games, a lot of teams with 5 games, as you pointed out. So I'm only counting 27 2-start pitchers total, and only 12 that I'm even halfway interested in starting. So I'm grading on a curve here, and I'm recommending Bobby Miller for most formats because those matchups are so good, and he is coming off one of his better starts. So hopefully hopefully he'll go into these 2 good matchups with some momentum.
All right, let's move over to Braxton Garrett facing the Astros at the Dodgers.
Yeah, not feeling it. Tough matchups. He hasn't been pitching that great lately.
Logan T. Allen at the Reds and home against the Tigers.
Matchups are a little better, especially that Tigers matchup, but just haven't seen enough signs of promise from Allen lately.
Wade Miley at the Dodgers and at the Rangers.
Nope, tough matchups.
And Brady Singer versus the Mariners and at the Cubs.
He's been pitching better lately, getting better results anyway, but I don't trust it.
All right, well, let's slide over to the 2-star pitchers that we will start, the ones we'll add and stream. We've got 4 names on the list. Who are they?
They are Nick Pivetta, number 1 on the list. Great matchups at Washington, at the Yankees, which, yes, is a very good matchup. And he's been getting a lot of strikeouts recently. Now, can I guarantee he's actually going to start those 2 games or versus following an opener? No, I can't guarantee that. But he's legitimately started 2 of his last 3 appearances and got plenty of strikeouts in both. And so hopefully that continues with these good matchups. I think you can count on him for 15-plus strikeouts this week, if nothing else. Miles Mikolas has great matchups as well against the Athletics and against a depleted Mets lineup. He's been kind of a random number generator this year, but it's been coming up good, really, since mid-May, more often than not. Mid-3s ERA since then. Not many strikeouts, but I think with the favorable matchups, you can go ahead and run Mikolas out there this week. Much further down the list here of streamer pitchers, Kyle Hendricks going against the White Sox and Royals. 2 good matchups. Never sure what to expect from him from one start to the next, though, and not many strikeouts are likely to happen. And then Graham Ashcraft. Yeah, this is the scary one because, look, he's been pitching great lately, and at least in terms of keeping runs off the board. Graham Ashcraft has a 1.94 ERA in his last 8 starts. Low strikeout rate, kind of a high walk rate, reminiscent of April when he was clearly overachieving and then collapsed soon afterward. But his most recent start, Ashcraft had 18 swinging strikes against the Marlins, changed his pitch mix again, maybe figured something out. Again, grading on a curve here with the 2-star recommendations. He's going against the Guardians and the Blue Jays. 1-start options. Do we want to get into those?
Let's do it.
Gavin Williams against the Tigers. Cole Reagans at the Cubs. Chase Silseth against the Rays. Those are the 3 breakout pitchers of the second half I am predicting based on their recent work. A lot of strikeouts. Good stuff. The matchup obviously is much more favorable for Williams than for Reagans and Silseth. But if they come through it in their starts over the weekend, because they will be making another start this week before we set our lineups for week 21, then I think I'm willing to trust them regardless of the matchups because they just look so good recently. Meanwhile, Andrew Heaney against the Brewers, good matchup, pitched well lately. Steven Matz against the Mets, good matchup, pitched well lately. JP France against the Mariners. Don't totally trust him, but that's a pretty good matchup.
All right, let's slide over to the hitters, the best matchups for next week. The D-backs, Mets, Cardinals, Rockies, and Mariners. The worst hitter matchups, Angels, Yankees, Rangers, Marlins, and the Nationals. With that being said, Scott, your favorite sleeper hitters for week 21.
So I don't love this group all that much. I want to point out, tough week for sleeper hitters. The one I really do like for sure is Nolan Jones, who has picked it up at the plate again for the Rockies. They are at home all week. And as of now, they're scheduled to face nothing but righties. So both of those, good news for Nolan Jones. I'd like to play him. The Twins are one of those teams with only 5 games, but since there are so many, I'm not going to hold that against them. Their 5 games are 2 against the Tigers, 3 against the Pirates. So they'll be facing a bunch of weak pitchers. And they're scheduled to face nothing but righties as well, which is good news for Max Kepler, Edward Julian especially, and also Matt Wallner. I like all 3 this week. Kerry Carpenter scheduled to face a bunch of righties for the Tigers. He's been hitting well of late. I think he's a fine play. You mentioned the Diamondbacks have the best matchups. They get 3 games in Colorado. I think that makes Jake McCarthy a fine play. Doesn't start every day, but hitting for average, stealing plenty of bases. Hopefully can take advantage of those 3 games in Colorado. And also Tommy Pham, who's basically been an everyday player for the Diamondbacks since coming over the trade deadline. Hasn't gotten it going at the plate yet, but again, really favorable matchups.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.